All right, how is everybody doing? I'm Jeremy Langlois coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. Sure hope everybody is doing great out there. Thank you for scrolling through, stopping, and checking us out. I sure do appreciate it. We're just going to go ahead and jump in and get cooking. So the dish that we're doing this week is we're going to do a Creole Parmesan salmon. Let's talk about that just for a second, and then we will get rocking and start cooking. You know, a lot of people during this time of the year, right after New Year's, they make that New Year's resolution to eat just a little bit healthier. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's do a dish that fits into that category. But also, hey, even if you didn't happen to make that resolution, this would still be great as well because I said a little bit healthier. It's not like raw food vegan. Ugh, not that. You know. So it's not. It's a little bit healthier. So let me tell you what we got going on here. Again, one of the recipes, just like the recipe we did last week, the champagne chicken, a very simple recipe that cooks up very quickly in one skillet. We make a pan sauce in the skillet and it all comes together very quickly. I love, love, love these types of recipes. However, with that said, a couple things, y'all, some housekeeping. All of our recipes are found online, either on our Facebook page. If you're watching us on Facebook, it should be right there in your feed. And our recipes are also on our Houmas House website. But also, we love interacting with you guys. My friend Jesse's behind the camera. At any time, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment. We love interacting with y'all. If we see them live, we'll try to answer them live, but we're also looking at them throughout the week. And then also, as we continue to cook together, if there's anything out there that you would like us to see, any suggestions on dishes you would like for us to cook, drop those in the comments as well. I would love to take one of your ideas and do that, say, next week. So drop those comments as well. We would love to hear from you. That said, let's jump into the dish. So we're doing this Creole Parmesan salmon. So of course we got our salmon, we got our Parmesan, and a few other ingredients. What makes it kind of Creole is we're using this Creole seasoning. However, this recipe is absolutely versatile and flexible. I'm using salmon, any fish would work. I'm using Creole seasoning, any seasoning mixture you like, or regular old salt and pepper would be fine as well. But I got, here in Louisiana, we have lots of these different great Creole seasonings, which is oftentimes ingredients like cayenne pepper, garlic, granulated onion, salt, pepper, different herbs and spices like that. And that's just going to be perfect on this salmon. You can see I'm seasoning it on both sides, just flipping them around. Let's talk about this salmon very quickly. Salmon's one of those fish that anybody can go out to the store or a market and get very easily. However, there's a couple things I want you to look for. When I was first kind of starting to cook, salmon was one of those ingredients or proteins. It took me just a little while to come around in it, and that's mainly because salmon can be somewhat strong or fishy if you don't get really great fresh salmon. So one of the biggest keys to cooking salmon, get fresh salmon. Whenever you get the salmon, it should have no quote-unquote fishy smell to it. It should be absolutely clean and fresh, and then cook it that night. You don't want to hold on to salmon in your refrigerator too long. The fresher it is, the better the flavor is going to be. So that's one thing I want you to look for. But with that said, I got that seasoned. I got a skillet here. I'm going to put a little extra virgin olive oil in. Again, we're cooking healthy here. So a little extra virgin olive oil is going to go in. I got the heat cranked up on high, and I'm going to go and just start searing these off. Now, when I put the salmon in, I should get exactly what I hear right there, and that is a sizzle. If you don't have that, well, you risk a couple things. I'm using Teflon, but you don't have to use Teflon, but Teflon definitely does help. But if you don't get that sizzle, it's very possible that the salmon will actually start to stick to the pan, and it'll become difficult to cook. But if your pan is really, really hot when you start, there's very little chance of it sticking, and that's what we're looking for. I see Jesse. We got a question, Jesse?
Yeah, when you want to know if salmon is like other meat, you have to wash it before cooking.
Okay, the question is, if you didn't hear, is salmon like other meats that you have to wash before cooking? Well, that's going to really depend on your salmon. You should honestly, or any other meat, you should honestly never really have to wash anything, any form of protein. A lot of people often wash, maybe say their grapes or their strawberries or something like that. And definitely something like, say, romaine lettuce, whenever you get it out, we'll often wash that. But any protein that you get, if it's fresh from a great purveyor and fresh and packaged correctly, it should be fine whenever you get it, and you shouldn't have to wash it. However, sometimes it doesn't hurt it, but you shouldn't have to do it if it's good and fresh. So I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully. What else you got, Jess?
Is there one type of salmon that has a milder taste than others?
Well, oftentimes with salmon, you're going to find a couple different varieties. You're often going to see like Atlantic salmon. You're going to see maybe Chilean salmon, or you're going to see farm-raised salmon. And if I were to kind of organize those into which ones I like best, obviously taste is something that's subjective. But I like Atlantic salmon, and that's what we got here, wild-caught Atlantic salmon. And then probably farm-raised salmon, and then after that, Chilean salmon. Not to get into a whole thing, but oftentimes, say Chilean salmon, say similar to like Chilean sea bass, wherever they're fished from, they might not have the same regulations that we have, say, here. So they might have some shoddy practices that they use. So you might not be getting the freshest salmon that you could possibly be getting. And then oftentimes farm-raised salmon is fine as well, but oftentimes fresh wild caught is always going to be a little bit of quality. Thanks for the question, Joe. So what we got going on here, back to the salmon, we seasoned it with that Creole seasoning, and we started to sear, and then we started to get some of that good caramelization on the outside. I flip that, and I'm just going to let that continue to sear, and this is exactly what we're looking for. Don't be too put off by some of that dark colors. That's nothing more than a little bit of blackening happening because there's paprika in that Creole seasoning, and that will often turn dark whenever you're searing something that's been seasoned heavily with it. So don't worry about that too much. What we're looking to do is sear each piece of the salmon about 3 minutes on each side. Another question, loving it. What you got, Jess?
Another question, we'd like to know if it's okay to buy salmon from a big box grocery store if there's not a fish market available.
Well, the question is it okay to buy salmon from a big box grocery store if it's not available at, say, a seafood market? And yeah, that's going to be fine. Again, there's always, like with food, there's always going to be different layers of quality, I guess I'm going to use with my little quotation fingers. That being, wild caught fresh salmon is always going to be best, just like fresh tuna is always going to be better than canned tuna, right? That's going to be best, but if you can't get that and you still wanted to do that dish, you'll be absolutely fine getting some frozen salmon, whatever. You can do this dish and it'll work out fine, but of course, it's the little things in cooking that really elevate cooking, and having really great fresh products to start with is always going to be optimal, so that would be what you're probably looking for mostly. Man, love the question, y'all. Thank y'all so much. So, even though this salmon is still probably a little raw on the inside, we have seared it and got a good caramelization. We're going to pull it off and put it on a little side plate just for a few moments, and we're going to come back to this pan here. You see this pan already has a couple little caramelized bits, has a little bit of that olive oil. I'm going to put some butter in it. Now, I know what you're saying. I thought this was supposed to be healthy. Well, if you're that worried about it, you want to cut that off, you could just go back with a little bit more extra virgin olive oil. But I said a little healthy, not a lot of it. So we're going to put a little bit of butter in there. Butter goes right into that pan. It's going to melt very quickly, and we're going to go right in with some minced garlic. And just, watch how quick this is going to be. That literally, I only want those to saute for about 20 seconds. You can already see, if Jesse kind of goes down in here, that there's already, we've got a lot of brown color in here. The garlic's starting to turn brown. That's where we're going to come in with a little bit of chicken broth. Just a little splash. And what that's going to do is adding that chicken broth is going to instantly cause that garlic to stop searing. I want you to be very careful with the step of putting in the garlic, because that pan was so hot, that garlic is going to, and man, smell it in here, it smells amazing, but that garlic is going to start browning very quickly. And you can go very quickly from brown garlic to burnt garlic in a matter of seconds. So as soon as you start to see a little bit of color, get that chicken broth in there. That will stop it from kind of searing, and that chicken broth will start to reduce. Again, I'm a big proponent of going to the grocery market. While you're at the grocery market, go in that soup area, get you a little box of chicken broth. It'll be fantastic. If you didn't have chicken broth, you can make this recipe by putting a little white wine in here. That would work great too. So we got our broth in there. Next thing we're going to add is the juice of 1 lemon. You know, one thing we like to do is we like to roll the lemon, put a little pressure, roll the lemon first on the cutting board. That just kind of releases breaks up some of the pulp and allows the juice to come out very easily. And you just squeeze it right in here, but man, these little squeezers make life so easy. They catch the seeds. Only takes a second. We're going to get that lemon juice in there. Never go wrong with lemon and acidity with your seafood. So we're going to get that in there. Now we're going to go in with just a little bit of honey. So we got chicken broth, honey, and we have the lemon juice. 3 different flavors that are going to all come together beautifully. The great base flavor of that chicken broth, the acidity that we're going to get from the lemon juice, and the sweetness that we're going to make with honey. Contrasting flavors that all come together that builds an overall better flavor. So that's exactly what we want in here. And what we're doing is I still have this fairly on a high heat because I want this to kind of start to reduce, which is going to cause it to thicken and intensify the flavors. As that happens, well, let's talk about the honey for a second. Did you know that Houmas House, we have our own bees just outside of our property? We have several beehives, and we get our own honey that right from those beehives, and we package them up in 3 different sizes, small, medium, large, and we sell them in our gift shop. Is that on? How's that work, Jesse? That's online?
They can go on our gift shop page on the website and buy them right online.
Yep. So yeah, Jesse, if you didn't hear that, Jesse said you can go online on our gift shop page on the website and buy our honey online. So look at that. Look at that. And then, so this is already in a matter of seconds, real time, y'all, that started to thicken and get a little bit, started to gotten real thick, and it only took a short time. So since we're making a Parmesan sauce, we're going to just got some fresh Parmesan Reggiano, and we're just going to start to grate this in as this is simmering away. That grated Parmesan cheese will start to melt into this liquid, and it's all these flavors, that lemon, that Parmesan, that stock, and that honey is all going to just make these really great contrasting flavors that are all going to work perfect together. And look, mine's actually starting to get real thick. If it starts to get a little too thick, I'm just going to put a little splash of chicken stock in there just to kind of thin it down, because I don't want it too thick just yet, because once it gets to this point, now this is where we come back with the salmon. I'm going to put these salmon fillets right back into here. And I'm actually going to take a lid and I'm going to let that just kind of steam. Now, y'all may not realize this, but I am so super impressed that we actually had a lid here at Houmas House that I could use, because one of the first things we do when we buy equipment is we take that dog lid and we throw it out into the garbage can. And as I was starting to dig around and find our cooking ware, I was like, oh wow, we actually own a lid. I can show you that. What I was going to show you to do with us kind of vagabonds here in the kitchen, what we do when we need a lid is we actually take, and if you don't have one, you can take a skillet of the same size and we just flip that over and it can kind of steam in there as well. But this we hardly ever use lids, and so we often just chunk those. And whenever, say, if we're boiling water or we're cooking something, oftentimes we just put like sheet pans or flipping over a skillet or something like that, just to kind of just to act as a lid, because those get in our way. Oftentimes at home, even whenever I go to cook, I open up our drawer that we have all of our cooking equipment in at home, and there's always like all these lids on top, and we never use them. I hate those lids; they just take up space. But my wife doesn't let them throw them away. But I got ways to work around it. But I don't know, just a random tangent. But anyway, all we're looking to do, salmon cooks very quickly. Now look, guys, up to personal preference for you. Salmon is something that you could serve kind of medium, where it's still kind of pink in the middle, or you can kind of cook it all the way as well. Salmon does cook very quickly. So with this lid on and just kind of still bubbling away, it's just only going to take 3 to 6 minutes, depending on how much you want it cooked. But it doesn't take long. It kind of steam in here, and it's going to cook very quickly. All those flavors just kind of quickly meld all together. I even like, when I get to the end, like after here, I like to come back and actually baste it a little bit with the sauce on the top, just to kind of get all those good flavors in. But you'll notice that the sauce itself is going to start to thicken and get very syrupy. That's exactly what we want. And at that point, I'm just going to turn it off. All right, let me grab a plate. We're going to plate this bad boy up. Plate here. Now, again, since we're cooking healthy, how we're going to serve it in the restaurant is all I did was very quickly saute off some different vegetables and some extra virgin olive oil. This was a little bit of diced yellow squash, zucchini, and some baby tomatoes, a little bit of onion and garlic. Threw that in a skillet and some hot extra virgin olive oil, little salt and pepper on it, and that's it. Just very quickly sauteed it off. Since I kind of fine diced the vegetables, I only want to cook them, I'm talking about a matter of 2 minutes. 2 minutes in the pan, little seasoning on it, and that's it. Very light, I'm still trying to keep it vibrant and crunchy and healthy. So just, you're really using those nice natural flavors that they have. But any vegetables, any side dish is going to be absolutely perfect for this dish. Use whatever you like. So we're going to get some of that on there. We'll come back with one of these salmon fillets. We're going to put that right on top. Again, only in the skillet for about 3 to 6 minutes, steamed, and it's going to be good to go. Of course, you got to come back with a little bit of that glaze. If it gets too thick, again, if it gets too thick for y'all, this is about perfect. But if it does get too thick, a little splash of that chicken stock you have, that chicken broth, and that's going to thin it out just perfectly. But there you go, guys. This is a Parmesan and Creole crusted salmon. A perfect healthy dish, but also very versatile as well. Feel free to experiment any cut of fish will be fine. Speckled trout, tuna, any fish would work great for this. Give it a try, and again, drop us comments. What would you like to see us cook? We love cooking with you guys. With that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye for now.